Hi there, I'm Sherry Quam Taylor of the Business Behind Fundraising podcast. We are entering a short little season 3 here because I want to talk about the factors impacting this whole Great Resignation. We got to talk about it, right? So I want to talk about a few different areas here in season 3 that I want you to watch. I want you to reflect on. And so today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, why you should invest more money into overhead. And I guess I'm really talking about fundraising staff. And so I think we know each other well enough that I can be pretty blunt and kind of speak my mind, if you will. One of those areas I want to talk about today is actually a concern or a complaint or just a reason that executive directors come to me. And that reason is, well, their development team is kind of raising the same amount of money every year. And because of that, they rarely have enough unrestricted revenue to build reserve, all the things. And so oftentimes we're immediately pivoting and trying to fix this with more fundraising activities. And, I guess I don't think I need to tell you that no new grant, appeal, event, board member, even shout out from a celebrity is really going to fix you not having enough unrestricted cash to invest in overhead, to build that reserve, to really make a solid groundwork, right? A solid ground that your organization is sitting on. What you need is more gas in the engine. You need to know that your team is spending enough money to generate the dollars you need. If you even want to think about doing all these awesome things in your strategic plan, you have to make sure you're spending enough money to do it. That's a flip sometimes. Sometimes we're like, oh, if I had the money, I would do it. Are you spending enough? And that's where we keep coming back to this, the word overhead. I said I wasn't going to talk about it this year as much, but it's still a problem. So I talk about it again today because, in 2022, most leaders, or I should say a lot of leaders are coming off of a lot of growth years, which is pretty exciting. And they want to grow again. And a lot of leaders are coming to me. They want to 2x, 3x, 5x their unrestricted revenue. And that's super fun for me, but they're always surprised where we start our work. And we start with math, right? And the reason we start with math is because it is only until you've been honest with yourself and you've looked in the mirror and you've really created a true needs-based budget that includes staff, includes infrastructure, includes overhead, resources, and all those things you need to grow. Until you've done that, then and only then can you create a true financing plan for your development team to actually fund. There's a flip here. This is the step everybody misses. You cannot miss this step if you want to scale and grow. Recently, I had a CEO come to me and they'd put a strategic plan in place the last few years. And that plan really called for about 25% of growth every year for the next 5 years. But there was a problem. They weren't hitting that number, but they didn't have enough money to hire more development staff. They had a skeleton crew. Within 5 minutes, I knew what was wrong. I looked at the numbers, I looked at the budget, I looked at the job descriptions, all the things. A, they were spending way too much on programs. B, they weren't investing enough in fundraising staff or overhead in general. Now, it wasn't their fault. Despite being an astute business person, this person has never run a fundraising department before. Right. And then that coupled with all the wait, am I supposed to do it different over here on the nonprofit side? All the shoulda, what don't we do? What should we do? All the things. When you can imagine all of those added together and kind of looking at can I spend more on overhead? But everyone's talking about this crazy percentage thing. You can imagine how confusing that is for somebody coming out of corporate and leading an organization. So what we did was we really had an honest conversation about what truly are the expenses that they needed to be spending to grow to year by year. Did they have enough gas in the engine? And then we said, okay, so that's the expense side. So now what is the true financing plan? How do we actually raise or exceed a true balanced budget? So many P&Ls come to me and it's, black on the bottom and red on the top on the profit side. Then and only then, if you do not do this step to see where should the money be coming from, what's going to give you the most flexibility, how does it align with step 3, that funding model? How do we design a funding model that really supports that true need? Then we can create your team around this. What should they be doing? Then your team knows what to do every year. So you have to look at not just the org chart, but the org chart with the metric-based goals, and then really empower the organization to hire those people and to hit those goals or meet those goals. Then what we did, once we had all this in place, then we knew who to hire. They hired the right people who actually had the right skill set, not just, they've been great at grant writing. And so I'm sure they can also do individual major gifts, 2 different skill sets. They hired people. Now, here's why I tell you this story. They had the money to hire. They had the money to hire, but it's like, oh, but I don't know if we do. And what would it look like? And what if they don't raise all the things? They had the money to hire, but they had to do the work, under that waterline of the iceberg to make sure that person was set up for success. When organizations are, I guess I'll call it brave enough, lean into the feeling of risk. It's not risky. It's a good business decision. When my clients lean into that, those are the ones who make consistent revenue leaps. Those are the ones who grow year after year. They're completely comfortable spending more money to raise more money. And they're comfortable because they have the numbers and the plan to back up their decision. They know the exact spend they must incur when staffing and resourcing the development department to raise the money they need to grow. This is the shift. This is what I want you to hear. Do not cheap out. Is that a word? On your fundraising staff. This is not where we cut corners. I feel so passionate about this. I think a lot of the Great Resignation could have been avoided because of this. I'm so glad you're here with me in season 3 when we're diving into this topic that won't go away. I guess it's a good thing it won't go away. We're fixing lots of things over here in this sector. So I want to thank you for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed this episode or excited to hear more about the next few I'm going to be talking about this topic, just take a minute to like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll get notified on weekly content. If you're listening on the audio podcast, take a second to leave an Apple review. I would greatly, greatly appreciate that.